order. The Village of Marvin Parks, Recreation, and Greenway Committee here on Tuesday, May 3rd at 9:04 a.m. I do determine that we have a quorum with myself, our board member Jennifer Castellucci. Bob is here, and Christina as well, along with our council liaison, Kimberly Van. The first item on the agenda is the adoption of the agenda. Any recommendations as far as any changes or edits?
No, Derek's going to give a Marvin Day update, but he's just going to do that in his public facility manager's update.
Okay. Do I hear a motion on the table that we adopt the agenda as written?
So moved.
All in favor say aye.
You need a second. Second.
Oh, second.
Why did I say aye? I've been waiting a while.
You're good.
All right. Next item on the agenda is the adoption of the previous minutes. Those previous minutes are from April 5th, 2022. And any questions about that? Any additions or edits? Do I hear a motion on the table to adopt the previous minutes from the April 5th, 22 Parks Recreation Greenway Board regular meeting minutes?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor say aye. Aye. All right. Next item on the agenda is public comment period. Do we have anybody online?
No public, no comment.
Okay, no public and no comment. Next on the agenda, item number B is public facility manager's update. So Derek, you want to take over from there?
All right, let me start with the number of projects that have been worked on in the past month or so. Blue Ridge Trail Works recently completed adding in some different trail segments around the park, provided a lot of neat connectivity to different amenities and areas, and made the overall walking trail or the walking loop just a little bit longer. So it looks really good. Go out there and check that out. Any questions about that?
Mark.
I'll show you. We have trees in the roundabouts.
Yay!
All right, no comments. Yeah.
We have trees in Pocket Park
We have trees at the Pocket Park too.
and Park.
And new trees at the park thanks to Village Hall. So staff has contracted Blue Ridge Trail Works for 2 small trail segments, and one is right out these doors, recently completed about 48 hours ago, provides connectivity to the Town Hall Trail, the one that Toll Brothers put in a couple of years ago. So we essentially could leave here and have trail connectivity all the way down to the elementary school, Joe Park, using the loop, and then in hopefully a few weeks, the preserve internal trail as well. And in addition to that one that is completed, he's been contracted to do the segment off of the preserve internal trail, providing an enhanced road connector. Any questions about that? Check it out. This is a nice little walk right here. It takes
I did it this morning at once.
it's the
but I would have thought it would come back to us for another recommendation, or something we need to put in without our approval, since we passed the round landscape.
Do you want to comment? Or,
Sure, I will. So we looked at the DOT list, because that was actually the next step, was that Hunter was told about what approved trees were on the DOT list. One of the two, I don't remember which one, was not on that list.
can I stop you right there?
Sure.
Can you speak just more in general to like PRG,
Yeah.
maybe advising and then council making the final decisions? I think that encompasses
Sure.
a little bit of everything that's.
So we take recommendations from all of our boards, listen to it, listen to the reasoning behind it, we have our discussion, and then we make a decision. Whether it's, we send it back to the members for further information, or we just make a decision on our own. And having,
Give staff.
give staff the directive to do sort of so if we wanted further guidance, then we would send it back, with Amy on there. And
I'm
I
not on the issue is, you know, it's like a process. The reason that we selected those trees versus regulars, everybody put in regulars. Indian land, Indian trail, and when I think of Marvin, I think of Marvin a cut above, and I think it would be great to market ourselves as such. And I thought the roundabouts gave us the opportunity to market ourselves a little bit differently. But now, I understand the process.
Okay.
Any questions about the trail segments? Okay. And then, I just put new fans in the barn. They're, 2 Fridays ago, I think maybe. It's been sitting. So I bought the fans, and the fans have been sitting all winter, and I was waiting on an electrician. I had an electrician, and then when I got ready to put it in, he said, "Oh, the prices have gone up." And I was like, "What?" So I had to go buy somebody else. And we saved ourselves money, renting the lift ourselves, going over there, with it and putting it in ourselves, and then just having the electricians use the lift that we rented instead of paying their prices for bringing in a lift. So it's a complete game changer. Like,
That's
there was a lady Saturday, she was like, "It was almost cold in here."
Okay, that's impressive.
They've got variable speeds. It's like 96-inch, industrial size, and they weigh a quarter of what the other ones weigh. So it's a very nice improvement. So that's all I've got for projects going on.
Can I debut products for the Eagle Scout program?
Yeah. Can we do that also?
What, second? Sorry.
Can we discuss an Eagle Scout project update?
Report.
Yeah,
Park Road?
no, yeah, we can do that.
As everybody knows, starting in November of last year, we were in contact with a gentleman, John Ridgway. His son was going to do an Eagle Scout program. And Sebastian, for whatever reason, has decided not to pursue his Eagle Scout badge. So he pulled out the program. So he will not be doing the product on the compost. So we'll just put it back. I think we already have it back on the website.
Which project was that?
Well, the compost, the free-
Yeah, we should have added that back
Yeah, I think
already.
that's already back on. I want everybody to know it's official. It's
We're,
Sandy might come back around.
No,
He's just out.
he's out. I never heard of that. Up to the end of the last
And my only update for that is I'm fingers crossed for a work day Saturday. I don't need, we don't need a coach anywhere, because you guys did the restroom area, right? Yeah, so we're gonna improve. That means we're going to show.
Huh?
Okay.
Where are we at?
Just
Public
remind
facility
me.
managers update.
Is that what's right?
Yeah, the group at the high
Derek's
school,
not talking about Marvin Day.
I
We're
mean,
working.
at the high school that helped they showed me 25 people. Hopefully,
The same deal.
this basketball, so it's kind of looking for those people. It's just like, it's more picky stuff to do. People, they want to do big things like new goals for some reason. I don't want, like heavy lifting, but they're gonna be.
Are you doing that the same day as we're doing the community cleanup? Or is that?
No, it's Saturday from 9 to 11.
Saturday the 7th?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, that's the same day as the community cleanup
Where are we meeting for that here?
at the park.
At the park.
Yeah, well, initially, and then the intent was people would go
What
back
time
to
are you
the
starting?
neighborhoods.
Is that 8 o'clock?
At 8 o'clock is when people are supposed to gather. And then, you know, if it turns out we've got some extra people, we might even just be able to add them.
Okay. Because unfortunately, we've got some weed issues.
I'm gonna send out an email just to remind people about that. Do you want me to advertise it as a work day at the park as well? Just tie it all in
But
together?
I'm not gonna be at 8 o'clock in the morning.
Huh?
I'm not gonna be at 8 o'clock. in the
Yeah.
morning.
Well, I can state that starts at like, you said it starts at 9?
Yeah, I'm gonna start it then.
Yeah,
9
and
to 11, that's it.
I'll just announce at 8 o'clock too, that if there's people that would like to volunteer just there at the park, that's also.
Fantastic, yeah, all of us know what to do.
Y'all
There's
take,
enough annual bluegrass to keep all of us busy.
y'all take a photo or two.
Oh, that's fine.
And
So you're set up, let me know how many people.
Mm-hmm.
I think I've got photos from the last couple, if that's what you're looking for.
Say again?
I've got photos from the last couple of birthdays, yeah.
Well, we can post them on our website.
Okay.
do we have bags and stuff at this point?
Talk to me, I got some stuff.
Okay.
That's. Baby that's.
Yep, the desk, the ball things
Okay.
Gloves.
in the bags.
Yeah, I have a couple of the claw things too left over from last year.
That's this Saturday?
Yeah, the 7th.
That's this Saturday.
All right. Marvin Day. All right, so pretty much everything is in place. There are just some last minute fine-tuning details that we're going through, but everything is rocking and rolling. I will ask if you can to just be available the week before, as I'm probably gonna try to have some kind of last minute planning meetings, to make sure that we're all good. If you have conflicts, understand, I can meet with you individually, or, but I'm just pretty much dedicating that whole week to prepping, just making sure stuff is in order, for that day. We got shirts for the 5K, and shirts for the event staff, fireworks contracts, and all food trucks are in place. Honey ride phase 2 finally finalized.
Hey, Dan, on the pony ride thing, I had spoken to Jill back and forth about a week ago where we were kind of scurrying still at that time. So how did we end up? Because I knew we were waiting on some stuff with the attorney. Is that all straight? And you know, one of them backed out, the one that just was bringing the pony. So we were still talking to the pony petting zoo, but we were looking for another pony. And I heard from Christina last night that things got straightened out, but I'm just not sure exactly.
And neither am I, to be honest.
Okay.
I'll
Okay.
have to send you a specific detail to that, also to Jill will be here.
Okay, so Jill kind of has.
Yeah, she and,
I'll
she
follow
was
up.
going back and forth with that vendor.
Yeah.
and, She's been tremendous help, so I just had to let her take it from it.
Okay.
Can I ask a question?
Oh, yeah.
Are you gonna put together race bags?
I feel like the race company is gonna do that.
Yeah, the race company is doing, whatever, I feel like we took bags off because of the extra fee.
Yeah.
But like bib and t-shirt,
Yeah.
they'll have like a package.
Yeah,
No,
custom bid
So
and
are you
t-shirt.
adding any other,
It'll be a
marketing
closed
stuff?
session room, should be
I
on
don't
there.
think so.
Okay. I'm gonna ask you to put, Heritage Fest.
I don't see why not.
We'll have more clear once we have the AV system.
Kind of size things.
Because I feel like that's a big component that we're missing as of right now.
Let me do a follow-up on that.
Because people are asking where things are at what time and.
Yeah, we need a map and a schedule kind of thing.
Right, kind of all encompassing.
We had a really nice draft, I want to say, like a week before we started moving, and all we had was one tweak needed, so I'm thinking it should be ready.
Because I feel like that would be good to start sending out to like sponsors, and companies, and HOA presidents.
I think the pony rides was holding it up when I spoke to Bill, because we were.
It might have been. Yeah, I know that those were like right there, ready to go, so and I'll just send them to you.
I would say as soon as we get them, let's send them out to all of us and to all councils, so we can start sending them out to, again, sponsors, friends, neighbors, everybody that, you know, HOA presidents list, all that good stuff.
Okay.
And then I know Christina was ordering some additional sponsor banners, or Jill's gonna order those.
And I think they're ready
Okay,
as of yesterday.
good. And then you're just gonna tell us that week where you need us?
Yeah, I'm actually
Everywhere, all day.
that's.
Specifically the art the balloons, the signs, so I'll take the signs. I'll get those for you.
We'll get them.
Are you sure I can use it?
No, I mean, it'll all kind of be all together, so it'll make sense. They might deliver them, I mean, they
Well,
deliver
the
them.
signs are with individual homes.
Right.
And they're spread out all over. If y'all can get the sign. Who's gonna, when will the balloons be up?
Probably Friday night.
That's gonna be able to let people know that.
As long as it's not raining, and then maybe we can knock on doors and say, hey, can you put these out in the morning when it's not, because we know.
Don't say the hard word.
It's that night, the night before.
So it's in the money, that's what you're looking for, yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm safe to tell them to go Friday night, the sign.
Yeah.
Hey, Derek, I know at one point we were kind of consolidating the needs for volunteers for the different components of things. Do we know that we have a good handle on that?
I have a good handle, I don't have a firm handle.
And we still got a couple.
Yeah, so we're waiting on the final number for the race, and I'm seeing if the band can provide parking volunteers for the school. Let me solidify that number.
And I'm going to follow up with, well, I guess Jill for the pony rides and Cedar Hill for the equine exhibition. I don't think we'll need volunteers for those, but I'll just double check it to see if they need anything from volunteer staff.
And Derek, I'm sending anybody that's asking about volunteer hours, I'm sending them to you.
Absolutely.
Right.
Is that it?
I hope so. Just spread the word. I mean, I'm not on Facebook.
Break the good word.
Yeah, exactly.
Good weather, yeah.
It's gonna be beautiful.
All right. Moving on to item C, unfinished business. Item number 1 is discussion of new village hall tree and landscaping improvements. Hunter?
All right, so as we discussed last meeting, council has directed staff to work with PR&G on getting the front of this building with kind of a rain garden with the natural kind of stormwater channel. I've asked Keith from the county to be here, and he's got a presentation. I'll probably just go ahead and turn it over to you if you're ready.
Okay.
Keith.
That moves,
It's really nice.
like it might be locked.
I think I locked the lock.
I'm just staying here. We have ways of making you talk.
locked it.
Was there anybody?
It's this wheel up here that's locked, you just locked it.
I locked all four of them yesterday, so.
Hey, since there's nobody online, do I have to share
All
something?
right,
No one's on.
my name is Steve O'Meara. I'm the urban forester for Union County. Just so y'all know, so Marvin pays into the cost share program that is my urban forestry program. So Marvin pays annually into that program between $6,000 and $7,000 a year. So I am your urban forester as well, okay? I was asked to meet Hunter and Councilmember Andy on site to come up with ideas to solve a problem, a drainage problem, basically in your front yard. Looking at that and realizing that it is your front yard, it's the view of the building from the street, the brand new, beautiful building. I've come up with this idea of installing a dry stream bed, okay, which is not a rain garden. It's important to note. It is a means of doing two things at once, both dealing with a drainage issue by conveying water where you want it, down the slope. And Andy had identified an area on kind of this corner of the building where we would want to direct the flow of the water. And a stream bed, a dry stream bed, only dry when it's not raining, okay, would do that. It is also a potentially beautiful landscape installation, okay. Next. So this is an example of a small scale application of the dry stream bed. And you see these installed often around homes to channel gutter runoff a certain direction. We would be installing a larger scale version of this, but it would still function the same. Next. So, as I said, a dry stream bed is decorative. It adds some beauty to the front of the building. It implies water, but it's low maintenance because it's not a fountain. You don't have a pump constantly running. You don't have that kind of maintenance associated with it. Again, it's kind of in addition to being a landscape installation, it's a stormwater facility. A small-scale stormwater facility. This example here, this website has some great photos and some great examples and guidance on how to build that. So we'll just kind of go through that. As I said, it is not a rain garden because, so if you click next. So a rain garden, a real rain garden, you're excavating 2 to 3 feet of soil and you're replacing it, especially around here. You're taking out clay and putting in sand that drains quickly. That's not what this is. Because Andy was clear that we didn't want to modify the DEQ permit. That was very important. So this does not involve a lot of excavation. It involves some excavation, probably about 8 to 12 inches. So an amount that I think that you would need to check, but I don't think you would need to modify the DEQ permit. I think that this would qualify as landscaping. And I would even recommend, because we do want to retain some of the trees out here, some of the smaller trees, I would recommend hand digging. Maybe some digging with machine, but I would limit that and be sensitive around the tree's root zones that we're trying to save. So it would be more hand digging, but it will involve moving some large rocks, so there will be some machine use. So you dig a shallow trench, you place the soil up on both sides of the trench, and that builds up a bed for plants. In the middle, okay, so then it's not a straight line. You don't want it to look man-made. You want it to look like a creek, like a natural stream. So it meanders, it has some narrow spots, some wide spots, a couple pools, so a couple spots that are maybe a little deeper. And so you're mimicking a natural creek. You put down 8 to 12 inch base layer of coarse gravel, driveway gravel, wrapped in heavy duty filter fabric, landscaping fabric, that allows drainage and is permeable, so not plastic. Next. And then you backfill behind those stones with some high quality topsoil. So as you're digging that trench, if you're digging out a lot of clay, you might remove that from site instead of piling it, like I said. So if we have some real sticky, thick clay up here, it'd be better to haul that out and bring in topsoil for high quality plants. Question?
Have we seen enough with some rainstorms and stuff like that to have a good idea, kind of plot it out of where it needs to go?
Yeah, when Keith, Andy, and I met on site, this was probably in February-ish. It was after a rain, and it was actually, I think, raining that day. But you can see the natural kind of channel where it kind of had the grass, ran over through from the stormwater runoff. The other thing is that there's the there's a culvert pipe that runs under the road that outputs like right here, and that's where all that so you're getting all the runoff on top of it, and then all that's channeling right into this, and then so that's what we're trying to control.
So there's natural places that we're just trying to contain the water. We're not having to kind of blaze new ground.
Correct.
That's right. We're not inventing a creek here.
Yeah.
We're enhancing an existing creek, if you will. And there's an obvious head, and that's at the culvert, I would say, or as close to the culvert as we're comfortable getting.
It's good to go both ways, but I know we've got the kind of the gully in the street coming down Martinsville Road. And then I know you had said that Andy had thought that coming in this direction down to the, I guess, the drains over here, but would we do it on, I guess, the west side, east side?
That wasn't the direction that I had, and that wasn't, I guess, if there is a bit of a natural ditch there, I think that the culvert comes this way, and flows this way. I think there's a bit of a saddle up there, and I don't think that direction was planned for.
Because there's a ton of riprap that goes this way, and it is ugly.
There's that ditch line on the other side between those oaks.
Between the big oaks and the road, heading east.
I'm just wondering if we do it both places.
That may be.
Well, some of that will probably, it's going to flow down the road, and then when it probably hits a point, it should all then naturally flow into this.
Into that direction?
Yeah, like on these sides of the tree,
Yeah.
I feel like everything should then flow this way.
You think?
Well, I feel like the trees is split, and so the culvert is going to come this way, and everything kind of.
Can we look out there and look at it?
Yeah, we can.
That's what I was. Yeah, I mean, this was.
Yeah, like while we're on here, like.
Yeah, can I wrap this up first?
Yeah, oh yeah. But I'm just like, we're here to talk about it, like because again, I hate the riprap place.
Sure.
It looks terrible, like.
Yeah.
Again, your whole point is, we're gonna go in, you want to feel nice, if we're gonna do it, let's do it.
Yeah. So we backfill behind these large stones with topsoil to support high quality plants. And I like this photo because on the left side of this creek, you have landscape garden. Now, that's going to be a little higher maintenance. If you want real low maintenance, on the right side here is an example of turf grass right up to those rocks. So a standard mow and blow crew can handle that. You know what I'm saying? So you have an option. You can also have a mixture. You can have spots where people can walk up to the creek and kind of engage with it and interact with it and look at the landscaping. You have turf grass kind of up to it and enjoy that almost as if it is a garden. Next. Oh, back one, sorry, back. And again, this is not a rain garden. Rain gardens, because you're modifying the soil hydraulic conditions, where they're sitting in sand for a month or two with no real soil or moisture. So your plant selection here is as broad as it is in any garden, which here in North Carolina, the possibilities are limitless. I have a few examples of common plants that are commonly associated with stormwater functions, but really your plant palette is endless. Next.
It would be more controlled by the sun.
Exactly. Yeah, it'd be like a normal garden, where it's really about full sun or partial shade.
Whatever you have along the line.
Yeah. So then this gravel, driveway gravel, wrapped in fabric, is topped with river rock stone, the round stone, and the stone, the big stone boulders are used for edging to kind of contain the water, contain the stone, and define the edges of the stream. And then you plant on the back side of that, ideally with some mulch. Next. If you have this is just an example of, so we have some riffles, so some shallow spots where the water would look kind of like rapids, and then pools in a bend where it's deeper, and then a straight spot where it runs a little faster. So you can add variety depending on, really how much volume you anticipate. Next. So Cardinal Flower is a native flower that's commonly associated with creeks and does well here in North Carolina. That's on the left. On the upper right, we have bee balm. And on the lower right, what I see a lot is low-growth juniper, so a creeping juniper kind of cascading over the stones. That's a common look with these dry stream beds that people like. Next. So this is a native oak sedge or grass, sedges and grasses. So this is a look that actually could be extended up to the creek, but even back into the treed area that we intentionally preserved up here. And so, beyond the scope of the landscaping of this dry stream bed, this is a look that could easily be cultivated, for example, around the base of these two heritage layers that you all have preserved, or the great big white lake up on the corner. Then you can edge that so that there's no turf and people can still walk more comfortably, but then you have sedge areas that are a bit more natural. Next.
No, they're not mowed.
Right, these would not be mowed. Or native blue flag iris, it's commonly associated with wet areas. Pretty tough flower. Next. Button bush, you'll actually have naturally occurring button bush and Marvin Leaford Park right on the pond. So another beautiful, this is a shrub, another beautiful species. Next. So just kind of a cost breakdown. This would be for an average of 2.5 feet wide and 200 feet of length. So stone is not cheap as a landscaping material. So 200 feet long and 2.5 feet wide average. Materials would be, just for stone and soil mulch, would be, again, these are ballpark numbers, right? Would be a little over 15. Next. A reasonable amount of plants for landscaping, just kind of the banks of that creek, would be about $6,000. Next. And that doesn't include labor or design. So you would need to find a good design and install landscaper to do this. I think you would save money by purchasing materials yourself. Otherwise, that person will upcharge 20%.
Do you work with any landscape companies, that you've had interactions with?
I haven't had much interaction yet with design and install landscapers.
Okay.
So, I would ask around your community who y'all have had good success with here in Marvin.
I think too, like I know a guy that does ponds and streams.
Yeah.
Which are the ones that have the water recirculate, but I think they would be kind of similar to people that do that too.
Yeah, I mean, if he does a lot of work with creating a good look, of a street bed, I think that might be an option. I would recommend getting several quotes.
Yeah.
I think the only difference between what you'd be doing and this is the permeability of this, whereas his is intentionally non-permeable to keep the water circulating.
We want to be real clear about that.
Yeah.
These be designed to handle those big tropical downpours we get in the summer, or is it going to be spilling out and making a mess?
I'm not a stormwater engineer. I haven't done any kind of calculations about how much volume is coming out of this pipe or off this road. So I think that designing to approximately the size of the existing kind of channel is a good rule of thumb, a good starting place. But I'm not a stormwater engineer, so I don't have any kind of volume calculation or anything like that. Because I don't know how much space is flowing into or how much volume is coming out of this pipe.
Do you intend on taking this to council, or how's that?
They're working on it.
Yeah, so I think, and Karen, you might want to correct me if I'm wrong here, is one, we need to, I guess, make sure that from a design / material / plant, what PR&G wants, because I think this is going to happen one way or another, but it's definitely kind of getting that input, as well as, I guess that's kind of the main takeaway from this, because that's what basically, and I mean, it's something that does need to happen, especially one with the Heritage District 2 sidewalk, all this stuff, because I think another thing was kind of putting a sidewalk or walking path from the entranceway here out to the road, and this would kind of meander right beside that. So it's not like we have to necessarily fully have a decision today, but having this presentation, having you guys see eyes, in the field here, and then really kind of thinking through on how, I guess, we as a whole should be able to tackle this. I know, like in the last meeting, I don't know from a labor standpoint, if this is also something that is going to be a volunteer / Andy's going to do something. I don't know. Or we're going to pay part of that in the quota cost for the labor. I don't think we've gotten that far with council. That is something, I guess, that I will be bringing back to council, either a planning update next week or during the work session.
Kim, would you want us to write up like a scope of project and then go get 3 bids on it?
Yeah, I mean, and we're gonna, we're trying to say we're gonna have to do it. Some variation of this, and I'd really like to find out if we need to do both sides. And then we can kind of put together a scope of project, just kind of bigger picture, but I would like to talk about like plan options, like I'd like to find out what you guys think would be good, what Keith likes, and then we can kind of come back and look at all of those. Because I feel like they're gonna be smaller, lower,
Not necessarily.
bigger.
I mean, the iris that you talked about, Cardinal Flower, you talked about, they're 3 feet tall.
Okay.
But that looks nice, that spikiness,
Right, you would want a variety of plants, I think. I think that one of the main landscaping functions is that, or design aspects is, from the road, this will, there will be a meander and a bend, but it'll catch your eye and it'll lead right to this tall part of the building and really enhance, I think, the aesthetics from the road. And there will be, plants of varying levels, and there's actually a lot of space for plants out there. But we would plant such that, nothing on that list was a tall tree, a shade tree.
That's what I'm thinking. It's more like plants. It's nothing big,
Yeah, I mean,
trees or.
I priced 10 flowering trees, like dogwoods or redwoods. That would be the biggest thing. I don't think you need any more shade trees out there, I would say.
But I think your 2 main, from my perspective, native and variety. Those are the 2 defining principles from my perspective, but that's always.
Yeah, natives are gonna be a little more low maintenance and a little more hardy.
And it supports the wildlife that we're all trying to support around here, since we're in a wildlife community.
And the design or the engineering of it, you know, the purpose of this is to move the water away.
Yes.
But how concerned are you for slight things where water will pond? Are you always trying to make sure that there's no water settling because of mosquitoes, things of that nature? Or that's why you're creating more permeable base?
Yeah,
Because if you get into it having to be inclined without like maybe a couple of little things, then you get into much more digging.
yeah, I wouldn't, be terribly concerned about some pools and some ponding a little bit.
Yeah, a couple of inches.
Yeah, a couple inches, and, you know, again, this is, well, like you said, it's about conveying water down the hill and directing it the way that we want, which is to come down the hill and turn a corner, a bit of a sharp corner, really, I think.
As long as it's not cool for more than 3 days, you don't really have to worry with mosquitoes. It's
Yeah.
like 3 days.
And that's what I was thinking.
I've got this kind of set up in my backyard that I built, so it's not nearly as pretty as this, but it runs water, it kind of floods a little bit, but then that water's gone. I mean,
A
almost,
couple of days.
not even, I know it doesn't even last that long. I mean, it's gone when the rain stops that.
Because if you're trying to move every bit of water out, you kind of have to over-engineer it, and that gets into more.
Yeah,
costs.
and I wouldn't, I would say, you know, again, I'm not a stormwater engineer, but 2.5 feet wide is pretty generous. You could even go a little wider, and I think that would be getting into over-engineering it without being too large for the aesthetic.
Well, and wider and a little deeper, then you can traverse more, that's not the right word. You can transport more water that
Yeah,
way.
you can
Because we
transport
do
water.
have, and you've been living here long enough, just torrential rain, and then, you know, we don't get any for 3 weeks.
Yeah.
Come on.
You know, is it gonna handle Hurricane Florence? Probably not.
No.
But right, nothing will. Nothing really is engineered to handle a 500-year event.
That happens every couple of years.
There's a ton of stumps out there, old, new, small, big. You get a stump grinder and take those down, is there any concern about, you know, like what's under the surface deteriorating and then kind of changing the scope of the landscape, or would you worry about like stump decay affecting anything?
No, I mean, I would just be careful with the stump grinder. I would just be going a couple inches down so that I'm not digging up roots from neighboring trees because they're kind of tight out here because it was forced. But you know, this is a pretty definite area. And at the top of the hill, at the head of this creek, you could kind of fan that out and do some light grading so that we know that we are capturing a broad swath and intentionally directing water into this system.
Can we go out there and look at it?
Do you
Yeah.
guys want to finish the meeting really fast? We only have action items left, and then we can just go ahead and go out there.
That would probably be great. Yeah, sure.
And I'll mention for this project is that depending on how we do it, there's going to have to be, I mean, as you see like the design thing, there's going to have to be some type of plans or just some type of thing drawn up. I don't know if that's in consultation with our engineer or if we quote this out to get just a full set of plans with the, I mean, I don't know how in-depth and
Just,
specific.
quadruple your price.
We'll
Yeah,
figure it.
yeah. So I just want to mention that, but it's definitely something that you're trying to utilize. I think the resources we have here to save the money, if it's with our contracted engineer, if it's with other contracts that we have, that's kind of where the
I
first.
think it's important to keep in perspective that this is a landscaping project.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't contract out to a civil engineer. If you have an engineer on staff or already contracted, you could have them look at it and get their opinions. But, again, this is, because if you left it as is, that would be okay as well. This isn't a civil engineering project, and I wouldn't take that step to get civil drawings. Because that's a whole different thing. That's not landscaping.
Hunter, somebody I recommend talking to, she's part of the Garden in Arton. She's been a landscape designer for 40 years. Her name is Lambeth Marshall. She's here in Marvin, and she's an incredibly talented lady. And she might want to work with us and give us a great price, where we can get an excellent plan and a reasonable price for going out to some of these landscape people that was just jackets.
Yeah, I think at least, and what I mean by plans is, I at least think a sketch / with the plannings, because at the end of the day, what you got or what everybody is approving or seeing, so we have an idea. I mean, basically kind of like the pocket part sketch, just roughly ideally of where it's all going to
I think that's great.
shake out.
I have no problem going to Lambeth, but I'm new here, and actually it's right up my alley. I've done landscape design before. I'm an artist, I can do renderings, and I actually just installed a dry stream bed this weekend. Not actually a wet stream bed. We just moved into our house 3 weeks ago and discovered that we have a natural spring, and my dogs were very demonstrative about pointing it out to us as it was pooling and mud. And so kind of on an emergency basis, we cut a stream bed to contain said spring, and just spent Saturday laying the first layer of rocks. So I can attest it can be done with 2 people in a week, hours of 100 feet. But you definitely need some equipment to move the large boulders, obviously. We are just making do with what we can move. But I would be happy to contribute whatever I can in concert with Lambeth or other people. That'd be great. To help create a design for this.
Yeah,
So
that would be really good. I know we're trying to be careful out here, in terms of heavy machinery with some of the roots we have, would be good, like smaller pieces of equipment to actually move some of those bigger.
Like a bobcat.
Yeah.
It's important that the bobcats are rubber tired. They need to be tracked machines
Okay.
that greatly helps reduce soil compaction.
Okay.
Where they are getting near tree root systems, they should put down plywood and be operating on plywood
Okay.
to spread out that weight as well, especially if they, have to go back and forth from the parking lot, and they're running back and forth, back and forth. If they're going through a tree skirt or root zone, they should put down plywood. Plywood is relatively inexpensive, and it just does so much to prevent soil compaction and root damage.
Do we want to go there?
Yeah.
Let's The last thing I'll ask is, do you want me to, for council, or do you just want me to provide an update, or is there anything?
I would have this, and
You want me to put it as an agenda item
just
on
one there.
this next week, or, okay?
Because I don't think we're gonna get this done, like, before the end of the summer. Like, I think
And
this-
plantings and things, you're not
We're gonna
going
wanna
to
do
do
it
till
in
the
the
fall.
fall. So, but I want to keep moving this down the track so that we can next get some sort of design and then talk about plans, get that list together. Then we can start, securing materials, so that we can ready, we can get stone and stuff ourselves, we're gonna save a lot on markup.
Okay.
And plans, so, but yes, just work on the design, that would be.
I would be happy to run a design.
Are you available next Tuesday?
I can look for what?
The village council meeting? If not, I can present, we can talk about it after.
Yeah, we can talk about it, we can check the schedule. All right, so
Yeah.
thanks y'all, and I'll stick around.
Thank you.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Okay.
All right. That's it for unfinished business. There are any new business items. So Austin, if you could just get our review of action items.
The only thing I have is Hunter and Derek will work on this proposal.
Okay.
I think we're good.
Huh?
Did you have any previous items?
What do you mean?
That's the next one, review
Yeah.
of
Oh, okay, sorry.
yeah.
Yeah, so I'm good there.
Okay, then, review of ongoing actions.
Derek, where are we with the washout at the cottage garden?
Still washing?
Still washing out?
It doesn't look terrible,
It's just on the list, so either are we doing something about it?
Dan's supposed to,
Okay.
give me, I've got my grading drainage fix contract, person coming out there in the next probably week and a half, 2 weeks. I can have them take a look at it.
I would.
Yeah.
While they're out
While
there,
it's there,
because the cottage garden is at the park, right?
it's at the front, you'll see it before.
What other grading changes are you looking at?
The front parking lot, when you guys return to it, it's got those 2 or 3 little,
slow them down.
the holes in the driveway. And then he's gonna cut better ditches along the side of the drive that goes to the shop. And then there's a washout at the very back corner of the back parking lot. Not the one by the picnic shelter, but the one with the big back parking lot. There's just a washout, so everything is so flat that water kind of makes up its own mind.
It finds them up.
Yeah, so we just gotta direct it better. He's gonna clean out the ditches, the culverts, you had
Oh,
identified
well,
those.
where they get.
Yeah. So,
Because some of them are almost fully filled.
bring in some riprap, just help water move better around there instead of washing away all our material.
Yeah, happy to look at that when he's out there.
Okay.
Bob, you got your update on the angel tree?
Yeah, I met with the HOA presidents last night. Well, I understand it's had done for council, so I got up with the HOA presidents to see if they had a level of interest. And they all did. In fact, some of our neighborhoods have already participated with the Christmas Bureau on their own Canterbury Creek. So there's a large interest in our ability to do this. It'll be the first time I think we've done it. And it'll be a great project. So,
Perfect.
just put on council and say.
Okay.
And there were some people that did it before.
Correct, Canterbury Creek who did it.
That's what I'm saying, you're gonna need more than one.
And the way it's interesting, Canterbury Creek did 2 families.
Okay.
And everybody in the neighborhood contributed to the family, to the families. In my talking with Union County, they prefer if they do, get one family, John does it, he buys all the tools for that one family, puts it in a flat bag, then the bag is so we can go about it 2 ways. I'm meeting with the ladies down at Canterbury Creek. Once we hear from council, we will go need volunteers on and what the tree location might be, tax, income tax, pick up that. It ought to be pretty, it ought to be pretty, so if we get just a few people doing it.
What did the, Union County, just curious about, like, when the tree, when this should go up, like?
Well, the date I confirmed was December the 10th, because that's our Christmas lighting day. Correct.
Yes, but that's the day we're gonna put the tree up with all the tags?
No, it'll go up prior.
Okay, that was that date.
Well, we determined that.
Oh, okay.
And they'll give us, as long as it's within reason, they'll give us a list of the names. They've got thousands of names.
Okay.
It's not going to be something difficult to do, unfortunately. There's more than enough people that need help. So,
I think we'll just want to kind of build it in the month before.
we'll set all that
We
up.
could have like an event of the day that we set everything up, something. I mean, maybe somebody shows up, oh, they'll be there.
Well, we'll have to market this thing. It's not going to happen on its own. And we'll do that through the HOA president.
So we really need to start, this group needs to really start talking about it probably at our September meeting. Figure out what we're gonna do, when we're gonna do it, then start promoting it in October and say like November 1st, we'll have a thing or.
Put the trees up then.
Yeah.
And then,
The one thing that I was wondering though, is when you have a tree with all the names and stuff on it, you kind of want, as people take those things, someone available to mark that down.
which is
So
why
maybe-
we.
So maybe we keep a tree here, advertising it in the 2 months before or whatever,
Yeah.
you know, so that they know to come here, pick their tag, and then we're kind of building it from here, and then, I mean.
This is the perfect location.
Yeah, I think you have, because, you can only pick it when the building's open, so somebody will be here.
Yeah, and then somebody can box
Sign
it.
in.
Yeah, even if it's a manual sign,
But we'll put all that together, but
I think it's great.
I think it's great for the community and hopefully everybody's.
Derek, we throw that on, or also we throw that on our agenda for Tuesday,
Yeah, I've been meaning to
and
put
then
it on there.
we'll just go ahead and give it the thumbs up, then I know everybody will be with it, so. And then we can start moving forward with it.
Because, you know, if you think about the 10th, that's not Christmas, that's 2 weeks before Christmas. So it's not, a lot of people put up trees Thanksgiving, right after Thanksgiving, but I'm thinking we didn't want to have it here in the.
Like the beginning of
Like,
November.
yeah, the beginning.
Yes, so people can plan and shop and
Yeah.
get everything ready and, yeah.
We can chase them down.
If the first tree gets empty really
We
fast,
can get
put some more on there.
more.
Yeah. You don't need more than one tree. I'm thinking this pretty smart.
We'll have the Halloween event at the park, October 28th.
Yeah, even started
And
then.
kind of promote it.
Yep, exactly.
Okay, this is coming Monday, November 1st.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's good, so let's put it
It's on the, well, I'll get it on there.
on our September agenda
September,
to really start,
that again?
start talking about it.
Well, if we think we're going to improve more, we can just put the timeline together and recommend the timeline. And once everybody approves it, let's get it done.
Yeah, I mean, I have no doubt that we're going through. But, yeah, put it on there.
I got it.
Okay, we talked to Southern Spears.
Yeah, one of the discussion points with Beer Urban Barbecue
Yeah.
as a fundraiser for our park
Yeah.
and our water systems after last night.
Yeah,
A lot of people were shocked at it.
with how much it's gonna cost?
Yeah,
Yeah.
but so I met with Don. Don is owned Southern Line Space. It does quite a business. Has a tremendous support of Morgan and Northern here. So I went to him for some advice. He thought it was marvelous. He said, "This is a great idea." He said, but is going to require an awful lot of manpower and coordination to pull this off. He said, because it's a first year event, he said a lot of the premier things, Woodford, Mayor's Mark, may or may not participate.
Because it's the first one. Yeah.
And,
What's like those?
but,
You don't have any of those, no?
but I think what I walked away from my meeting with him is, are we committed as a town to pull this together? If we won't have it this year.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
It's gonna be a next year project, probably September. But the question is, he's all for it, he thinks it'll be a huge success, he thinks it'll be a great fundraiser. His opinion is that he wants it to become an annual thing that builds, because as it builds, Woodford will show up, and they'll bring their people in, Mayor's Mark will show up, and all of a sudden it just takes on a whole new energy versus just, local craft. And there's nothing wrong with local craft, liquor or beer, but he said, you want some big names, bring in the trailers, so on and so forth. So the question is, how committed are we to doing this? That would be the question.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a great idea. We haven't talked about this in the council, have we? Put that on there.
that one this morning.
I mean, seriously.
So this is the bourbon tasting, is it?
Yeah,
Okay.
and I'll talk about it. I mean, I think it's a good idea, I absolutely think you're right, I don't think it's gonna happen this year, just one more day, and it's just not gonna happen, but I think if we start planning it now, and start getting all our ducks in a row, and figuring it out, and trying to line up, even something bigger names, like,
He didn't say that it wouldn't, he said,
it just may not, yeah,
well, his point was, it
It
won't
makes
happen
sense.
this year, because
Right.
they're already making the plans for this year.
right.
That's the reason we need to focus on next
Maybe
year.
next year.
And he will make contacts, and we have the opportunity to make contacts, but I just want everyone to know.
Yeah, okay.
This may be logistically and manpower wise, a substantial thing, but I think it's great for our park, I think it's great for building the market.
I think it's great, thank you for doing all that work. We'll talk about it in our meeting, and then we'll come back, and as long as it comes up, I say we move forward for next year.
Do you foresee the event happening at the park?
Well, that was the intent, unless we've got another location, a farm or someplace with a lot of open space.
I'm just
park.
That's what I'm trying to figure out is like your target size and, you know, do we need to, are we talking about shuttles or,
Yeah, that's what.
Yeah, we may have to, and that's what we'll do,
That's
we'll
what
start talking about
that's
it.
all this.
Yeah. But that'll, we'll start planning it now for next year.
And we'll get up with organizations that have already done this.
Yeah.
what time frame of year?
September,
September
October, I think.
23.
I know you didn't just say that. Do not speak, don't talk like that. Okay, that's it.
Cool.
That's it. Let's go look at a drive.
Yeah, let's go.
Board member comments.
What's that?
Board member comments.
Yeah.
Oh, we gotta adjourn too.
Board member comments and then,
Then we're adjourning, so we're good.
I have none, thank you.
Welcome to.
Oh, yes, welcome to Super.
Well, thank you.
But I did that.
I'm happy to be here, that's my.
We're happy you're here.
all right, I was going to welcome you, but welcome aboard.
The peanut gallery.
Tapping into skills, artistic skills.
Yeah,
We're-
absolutely.
We've got a very diverse group here that brings different things to the table, but
Apparently Bob's bringing
appreciate
in.
your hands.
So he wins.
Also, just real nice to have such a wonderful facility, so to all the staff, I know even getting things ready and set up, it's been a challenging road to get to where we are now, but thank you for all the work that you guys are putting into that, and also Marvin, really looking forward to that, and it seems like everything's coming together well, and appreciate all the hard work everybody's putting into that as well. All right, do I hear a are we gonna adjourn?
We're gonna adjourn. You guys are just gonna go out there.
We're just going on. Just do it.
But no decisions.
Yeah, no decisions are being made.
Do I hear a motion on the table to adjourn the Village of Marvin Parks Recreations and Greenway Committee here on Tuesday, May 3rd at 10:10 a.m.?
So.
Second.
There you go.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.